Welcome back to Soul and Self Collective. I'm Elizabeth,
And I'm Scott.
and today we're going to try something a little different. We're going to dive into Scott's Corner. So, what that means is we all know Scott is a very curious person and he just likes to get down to know what everything is, right? And so, this all started when my teacher came and raised me, and she had dreams about my grandpa, my great grandfather, who showed her the original Hmong sinning um, used to capture spirit. And it had that swastika symbol on it. It's known as many other names by many different countries that was used prior to what it's infamously known for. And it's actually a lot more peaceful than what it's symbolize, what it's known for now when people see that sign or symbol, I should say. And some places it means good fortune, good luck, spirituality, but I didn't know that. And so when my teacher told me that, I was like, oh, I don't know. I mean, I've seen some Chinese drama where I've seen that symbol on the gowns of, like, say, the dowager or something, but I didn't put two and two that it has an actual spiritual meaning to it.
Yeah.
And so I came upon this YouTube video, and it was basically a guy who went to Mongolia to get a reading done by their shaman. So Mongolians, they have shamans, and it's really interesting. Scott's going to share all about them.
And that's what led
yeah.
to this type of video, was the curiosity about all the different shamans and how they all kind of intertwine or connect or have very large similarities.
Mm-hmm.
So I started digging down that rabbit hole of trying to find out information, and it led me to realize all the different types of shamanism that there are in the world. And that's where this idea came from. We're going to try and see if we can explore all the different types of shamans throughout the world. And the first one we're going to start with is the Mongolian shaman.
And it's only because that was the first thing that piqued this type of path for Scott and me.
Yeah.
I can't really like research much about other shamans. I try to, but sometimes I get headaches and I get really fatigued from it, so I don't. And most of the research is up to Scott, and I'm there more for like conversational piece.
Yeah.
But yeah, Mongolians, they have shamans, and we've been trying to practice how to like pronounce it, and hopefully we don't butcher it, but most likely we may.
Definitely are going to.
But it's okay. So, what's a male shaman called?
So from
Because the male and female are called differently.
They are. Actually, from what I found, currently they're both called Bu. And in the old traditions, that's when there was two different ones. There was the Bu and then the Udgan, which is the female shaman. So I thought that was pretty interesting that they rolled them into one currently, from what knowledge I have of it.
So when the male shamans, the Bu,
yeah, Bu, I believe,
when they go in their trance, they are in a special hut that's just for readings or spiritual practices, and they wear their gown, and then they wear like this. So you know how Hmong shamans, we wear a tiho, which is a veil, either white, red, black, and traditionally it's those three colors. But for Mongolian shamans, they wear like this, almost like these yarns that go over their face, and when they go in trance, they actually get possessed by their ancestor. One of their ancestors will come through them and do the reading for whoever it is that's asking for spiritual advice.
Yeah, and I thought that was interesting because it's kind of, like you said, a possession. But they also use the word transformation. And the way that I was read during the research was all of the tools, all of the ornate bells, antlers, mirrors that they have on them, including their clothes, is a way for them to transform when they go into the spirit realm. as a way to be something different than what they are in this waking life.
Okay. So do the males and female, do they do the same thing like Hmong shamans, or are they like, do they each have their own special task?
From what I've found out, now that they rolled them into one, they're very similar. But I know in the past, the Udgan or the female shamans used to do different stuff. They were more in line with healing, fertility, and communal well-being.
Mm-hmm.
So the male shamans, on the other hand, they're more of a spiritual mediator and healer. So that's where the difference is from what my research has found.
Oh, okay. So I have a quick question.
Mm-hmm.
So I've heard you mention twice that they combine the male and female shaman. What do you mean by that?
It was kind of forced upon them during the Soviet run time when they were being suppressed. It just became more of a like symbolism for the shamanic ones while they were being suppressed. So they rolled them up into one. But nowadays, it's still kind of like that, but there are some lineages that are very dependent on having them separated. They still want to try to have them two separated. So some lineages do use both of the terms.
So do the Mongolian shamans, do they have an awakening or initiation similar like Hmong shamans?
They actually do. From what I found, they have similar shamanic illnesses, and then that's how they know that they're being called. They call it a Zahuril, often marks the beginning of their path, and that's when they get chronic illnesses, psychological distress, or visions until they accept the calling.
Yeah, that is like a very similar awakening, like a lot of shamans, like not just Hmong shamans. Even listening to my teacher's podcast with her latest studio, you guys go check her out. Shaman Memoirs, her podcast with a Mudong, and she was sharing about that awakening, that's shaman sickness, and it's wow, it's just exactly like so similar.
It is. I thought that was interesting. That's one of the parts that caught my interest was how close they all are, even though they are very different. They all have like a base type of calling to them, and it all revolves around like a spiritual sickness.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah. Another interesting fact about the similarities between like the shaman illnesses and how they're both kind of intertwined is that Mongolian shamans, just like Hmong shamans, have white and black shamans, kind of like the white and black cap.
Mm.
And
wait, are they like the same? Like, because you know how the black cap, they are very heavy in demon slaying, and they do a lot of like very heavy type of works, whereas the white cap traditionally they do more of like the angel work, more of like for lack of a better word, like psychic type of readings.
I would say they are kind of similar. I'm going to explain which each one does and let me know how close you think they are.
Okay.
The white shamans are invoked by benevolent spirits, ancestors, and work with celestial forces, where the black shamans are engaged with powerful or aggressive spirits, often used for warfare and protection against curses. The distinction wasn't about morality, but rather the nature of spirits they worked with.
From my understanding, is that the demon slaying type of lineage, they do have spirit guides that are obviously very aggressive, right? Because they have to go and kill demons, and they have to go kill bad spirits or naughty spirits, right?
Yeah.
They have to banish them. They have to do those type of task. Whereas the whitecaps, they handle more with like the heavenly type of guides, the Buddhist type of guides, and they're more the one that does just like the essentially, lack of a better word, again, light work and more of like readings and healing.
I was going to say, it sounds like they're more healers.
Yeah, well, I'm not a white cap, so I'm not quite sure. And I'm not fully a demon slaying one either. And so I just get little glimpses and pieces of what each side does.
Would you mind me asking what is the red cap part? If the white is that, the black is that, where does the red cap fall in?
My teacher's lineage, we still do a lot of like the old school style where we still go and do fixing of graves, slaying demons, fixing really heavy curses and things like that.
Okay.
But we also have the psychic ability natures like enhance sixth sense or just a sense in general,
Okay.
whether that's sight, hearing, smell, taste. I don't. That would be very interesting if someone can like, yep, there's a ghost nearby. I've never heard of someone who has like a sixth sense with like really heightened taste bud.
Okay, so actually, a caveat on that enhanced taste bud, not in a sense where your taste bud is heightened, but what if it's the heightened sense where you can't really tolerate a certain type of food anymore once you've risen as a shaman or been awakened? And so there is that caveat too.
So the old school style, they did not have like that enhanced super like sixth sense. So that's why there's the red cap, the new age shaman.
Okay,
The
so the
hybrid.
red would be, like you said, a hybrid, and that's more of the new age and not the white or the black one, which are more of the traditional ones.
Yes. Well, technically the white one's a new age one too.
Oh, okay, so it used
Well,
to
the
just be
white,
black.
yeah, it used to
Oh,
be just
okay.
be black. And from my understanding, it used to be just black because of the type of spiritual help that many people needed during that time.
Okay.
And so, but now the white cap is more of like the new age, like the red cap and then the white cap. Those are more of the new age.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, they seem to have very similarities amongst them. There are differences, but they seem to kind of align with what each one of them does.
Okay.
Some of the other things that I found that was interesting was the type of tools that they use, and they use drums. They call it a toyo, I believe, and that is for central for entering the trance. Acts as a spirit horse, which I thought was interesting because you guys have a bench, but their horse is the drums that they use.
Oh, okay. So they have a shaman assistant too.
I believe so.
When I watched that video of that guy who went on
Yeah.
to go seek Mongolian shaman for spiritual services, I don't remember there being drums. But then again, I wasn't paying attention to the drums. I was paying more attention to the chanting.
Yeah. I will say I saw two types of like it was conflicting. Some had someone there and some didn't. So I don't know
Okay.
if there was a difference between them. I couldn't find a straight answer for that.
I mean, it's also really interesting for me too because we interlock with so many other shamans out there, like beyond Hmong shamans, like Korean, Mongolian shamans, and I'm sure all the other shamans that we are going to dive into. It's so similar. It's so eerily similar. Different techniques, but still like this the same end goal.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I just find that so perplexing, and the awakening and whatnot. It's the same.
Yeah, that's what got my interest in this was just how different but similar they are, and how
Like the methods are different.
yeah the methods are different, but like you said, they have similar goals. They're going to get information from the other side, and it's how they get that information and relay it. Yeah, and the next piece that they use often are staff or antlers, which represents connection to animals or cosmic power. So I wasn't quite sure how they used the staff or the antlers. I couldn't get like concrete facts on that, but I thought it was interesting how they did have those in line, and that leads to my own spiritual awakening because I know that I'm supposed to have a staff. I don't know where I'm supposed to get it, but that's something that my shaman journey is supposed to have is a staff. So was still on the look for that. But it was interesting seeing how they kind of have similar tools. The next thing that they have is spiritual helpers. I thought this one was super interesting because the Hmong shamans use similar stuff. So their spiritual helpers are animals, ancestors, and nature, being the aid in rituals.
Sorry, just as you're talking, I'm getting like a lull to fall asleep.
This is why she can't do any research, because her guides are like, you don't need to know any of this.
I don't know.
So if this video puts you to sleep, I'm sorry. I really like it, so
I'm here to support this guy right here. So
I'm gonna try and keep her awake. But I thought the spiritual helpers was interesting because Hmong shamans also use animals during the rituals as assistants in their rituals. And you guys, do you guys use ancestors? I know you have ancestor guides, but I don't know if you call on your ancestors to do rituals or services or anything like that.
Yes. Short answer is yes.
Okay, cool. And the last thing that they have is the Tree of Life, which I thought was interesting, which is an axis connecting underworld, earth, and sky, often representing in rituals. So I haven't, again, I didn't find any direct like picture or how they use the Tree of Life. I don't know if I'm assuming it's a symbol, but I don't know what the symbol is on or how they present the symbol. But I thought that was interesting how they pull everything together into the one Tree of Life.
Okay.
Now that we've kind of introduced both the types of shamans, a little bit about their tools and what they do, now I'm going to go through the history of them, starting from the earliest stages to where they are now.
Okay.
What?
I'm struggling, you guys.
I'm struggling. Okay, so now we're going to get into the early stages of Mongolian shaman. Evidence of early shamanic practices in Mongolia dates back to the Bronze Age, which was 3000 to 1000 BCE. So these are really old, which I thought was pretty fascinating. I didn't know it dated back that far. The early Mongolian tribes believed in a tripartite cosmology, which is the upper world Tengger, which is sky, the middle world, which is earth, and the lower world, which is the underworld / spirits. I thought that was interesting because Tengger came up a lot throughout this. This is one of the main words that we are going to hear a lot of moving forward. But I also found it interesting that the spirits were only in the underworld. And I could be, from the research I found, there weren't any in the above worlds or middle earth or the upper world. And back in that time, the shamans acted as intermediaries between these realms. So they were kind of the ones that bridged the connection to all three of them.
That's very similar to Hmong shamans.
Is it? In what way?
It is. I can't give you a concrete answer. I feel like Dory in this in this part.
Okay.
Where it's like, oh, that's cool. It means something, but I can't concretely tell you guys. Like,
okay.
But I just know it's very similar. It's like a feeling.
Okay. And then the next part is the Turkic and Xingnu influence in the 3rd century BC to 8th century AD. So this was a very long time frame that these shamans were working. The Xingnu Confederation is a powerful nomadic empire, had religious leaders and spiritual guides who likely resembled shamans. Later Turkic empires and tribes incorporated animalistic and shamanic elements, many of which were inherited by Mongolian tribes. And this is where the sky god Tengri came in, which is heaven or blue sky. And he became a central deity, a belief system known as Tengrism, which is something that goes for a long time. And I believe it's still around today. And Tengrism really came into, really became known during the classical shamanism in the Mongolian Empire. This is where Genghis Khan comes into play, and I found it interesting that he was a devout follower of Tengrism.
Okay.
The Mongolian state religion during the empire's early days was deeply rooted in shamanic rituals, including offerings to nature, ancestors, and the sky god Tengri. Genghis Khan had a spiritual advisor called Teb Tengri, and he was a well-known shaman. So he was always with Genghis Khan from what I've read. he followed him around, and whenever Genghis Khan needed information, he would go to him for insight.
Okay.
This is where the Bahu came up and was held in high status, performing rituals to ensure victory, good harvest, spiritual guidance for rulers, and he was one of the first Bahu was the Teb Tengri, which was the one that followed Genghis Khan. After this period is when the suppression really started to come up, and that was between the 16th and 20th centuries, and this was the Buddhist suppression. Tibetan Buddhism became the state religion under the Altan Khan in the 16th century. Many shamanic practices were assimilated or suppressed, but some persisted in rural areas. Buddhist monks were sometimes also trained in local shamanic traditions, leading to syncretic practices, shamans adopting Buddhist iconography and terminology. And sadly, even after the Buddhist suppression, more suppression came, and this one was even harder because this was the communist suppression during the Soviet Union. Under the Soviet bloc backed rule, shamanism was declared superstition and heavily persecuted. Shamans were imprisoned, executed, and forced into hiding. Sacred objects and knowledge were destroyed to keep secrets by elders. During that time, it was just bloodbath everywhere. You weren't allowed to do it, and if you were found that you were practicing shamanism, you were going to be imprisoned and probably killed during that time. And that led all the way up to the contemporary shamanism today, which is the post-Soviet revival, which started in the 1990s. Since the 1990s, Mongolia has been a strong spiritual revival. Many Mongolians now identified as both shamanic and Buddhist, practicing rituals and ancestral connections, healing and nature. Urban shamans operate alongside rural traditions, some blending modern psychology with ancestral knowledge. And then lastly, there's the neo-shamanism and global reach. Mongolian shamanism is now gaining international interest. Some shamans conduct global workshops or collaborate with indigenous shamans from other countries. And their growing emphasis on environmental stewardship, ancestral healing, and cultural preservations is something that is very prevalent in today's age, and what the Mongolian shamans are currently really focused on from what I've found during the research. It feels like Buddhism kind of swept through and assimilated itself into multiple different shamanic religions as well. So that is very fascinating, especially moving forward. It'd be interesting to see how many different shaman.
You know, it's really interesting is that people don't say so. Shaman is not a religion, right? And so
Right.
when people follow shamanism, they don't say, "Oh, I'm a shaman," because technically they're not a shaman, right?
Yeah.
And so it's just a spiritual belief. And so what I've heard is most people tend to say, "Oh, I'm a Buddhist" instead. But to me, what I'm understanding is that Buddhism is more contemporarily acceptable compared to when you're saying shamanic practices or things like that. People tend to immediately think, "Oh, okay, this is just a spiritual, philosophical type of person." Something that I also want to add that when Scott is sharing these things and when we're having this conversation, this is just a beginning of the conversation. And as we find out more information and the conversation develop, we'll make more videos regarding it and updating and just continuing that conversation piece.
Yeah, this is more of just an informational journey that hopefully we can all go on, because it's something that was interesting to me, and it's just fun starting that conversation and seeing what information comes out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you guys like this, let us know, and we'll see what's next, what shaman lineage we're going to do next.
Yay.
And see how much we can put Liz to sleep during this. All right, y'all take care.
Bye.